trumpet sounds in the dedication, lead and defile with their lies and abominations. Breathe, therefore, war, gather round for the dedication. Remember the law, kingdom is ours. Dragon is raw, we coming for all. Nations of all, we ready for war. Strong ending my bar. The pick of my sword, you killing them all. Blood on the floor, you ready for war. Rah, rah. 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 You ready for war. Listen to me with my hand. The time is coming, you scared? Pass me the sword over there. I'm doing it, but I'm teach me your ways. Before the Lord takes you away. Told me people like a lion. Did us a war. Somebody died. Never give up. Never give in. This is a fight. We're destined to win. Turn the enemy. Aim for the head. Pay their rise. I'm gonna hit him again and again. Again and again. I can't show no mercy. The people we gotta defend. Give them 100%. Gotta be worth. I know what you're listening. You must remain humble and disciplined. You must keep the hunger and vigilance. And execute punishment. Vengeance! I'ma supply when I'm older. Learn the cuts get colder. Putting this weight on my shoulders. Get light with the sword of the host. Remember, my avenger. You're a fighter, a defender. For your father, a contender. For the body and his members. The days you teach, I meditate. Until we walking through heaven gates. I'm ready to fight, won't hesitate. For the Lord, my life, I'ma dedicate. Then you will elevate. Remember your father in heaven, no surrogate. Sharpen your sword on the storefront in heaven. Remove all that leather, get ready, don't hesitate. We in the battle, skip that or detonate. Remember your stock, get it poppin' to decimate. We are the sons of the promise, no featherweight. Built for this battle, revival, they desecrate. Ready for war, ready to carry my sword. Ready to kick in the door. Ready for errors, the devil been bringing that sin like he did it. I'm ready to show. I'm back in my Bible, got everything with me. I wanted to give me, I had it before. I gotta put in this work for my people. They ain't ready, cause I'm ready to war. You ready to war? Wait for his head. Nah, it ain't dead if his blood isn't shed. Betty gon' pay for the day when he breaking the race and he race off our faces instead. Fire from heaven, no press. Ain't him gon' leave him no rest. Sword through his chest. Call her relieving my stress. We in it nonetheless. I am a son of a leader. I'm trying to part me a Peter. I heard what you said, but these demons ain't ready. I don't need a mic, I need Jesus. Ready to battle whatever, whoever can get it. Let's go with this if he needs it. Pull up and beat us the back, cause you know this is how many heathens can never defeat us. We are the leaders. Wait, hey, boy, you gon' have your day. Swinging and slinging that sword. Better remember that it cut both ways. Better fix your face, cause grace ain't cake. Yeah, be humble, don't step out your place. Your pace possesses your soul. Remember, no foe is the king on the way. The king on the way, and I can't wait. All of these heathens gon' vacate. We coming with vengeance, don't look what up in. We giving new meanings to made. They pull up inside of whoever accepts it. So name off it through scripture. They give them the business, go get it, I'm ready. Ready ain't nothing, I'm petty. I'm slicing up better than this. Remember the law, kingdom is ours. Dragon is raw, we coming for all. Nations of all, you ready for war. Strong in the law, ending my bar. The pick of my sword, you killing them all. Blood on the floor, you ready for war. Rah, rah. 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 You ready for war. Gather round for the dedication. Rest of the Lord, but they sound in the dedication. Lead and defile with their lives and abominations. Breathe and for war. Gather round for the dedication. Breathe and for war. Gather round for the dedication. Rest of the Lord, but they sound in the dedication. Lead and defile with their lives and abominations. Breathe and for war. Gather round for the dedication.
Hey, shalom Israel, shalom, shalom, Most High in Christ bless. Most High in Christ bless. Hey, that's a fire song. all right, let's send up prayers real quick. Let's go. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. O Heavenly Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we come before you today for thanksgiving, giving us thanks in these last days to give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, as well as send your angels of protection over us, as well as your angels of healing over us in these last days. We also send up prayers for the destruction of the enemy, as well as good health, nurture, that's good in the body. In your mighty Son, in Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. All right. All right, Israel. Shalom, shalom. Most High Christ bless. Most High Christ bless. All right. So, we're going to get into it. All right. So, yes. Very, very inspired, all-inspiring song. I mean, get you in the spirit, you know? Get you in the spirit of war. But we're going to be going a little bit into that, actually. So, the name of the class is The Dividing of the Times. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna wrap that name up into the lesson. Because you probably think of one thing, but it's actually another. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so I did make I made mention some time ago about really like going in on the eugenics tree. I want to show y'all the eugenics tree really quick, because these systems are actually used against us to keep us in the midst of sin. All right, so matter of fact, let me I know Israel, I don't have my tech team, but all praise, we're gonna still do it. All right, okay, so who has seen this before, right? You see it? It's eugenics, right? Eugenics. All right? So with this is the idea of good genes, right? So it's a tree, and what supplies a tree is its roots, all right? So in order for us to cut down Esau's tree, what must we do? We got to cut each of these roots down, not to supply it nutrition anymore. All right. So one of the roots that we're going to tackle today is several actually. In their roots, they have sociology, religion. Yeah, we're going to get into that today. They have politics, and they have genealogy. All right. And mind you, this is the world through the lens of Esau. A lot of us are still in the lens of Esau. That's what we are. We may say, like, even in the repentance, you're still repenting, meaning it's a constant process. So that means that your mind is forever changing every time new knowledge come about. So let's get into it. All right, I got to start with one of my favorite preluded scriptures, just like Deacon Abiel. Shout out to Deacon Abiel. Yeah, I love this. Romans 15. You know, get you ready. All right, Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. So, with us in these last days, we are actually gifted with history. And the beautiful thing about that scripture is you must learn the past to know how to move in your present to set off a better future. That's why I love that scripture, because it forces you to look back, to learn from past mistakes, to correct it in the now, and then you benefit from the fruits of your labors in the future. All right? So, let's get into it. Now, since it's a dividing of times, I want to get into that. So, now we just mentioned about the patience that is the patience and comfort that come with the scriptures. But since we're in the last days, a lot of us are going to lose patience. A lot of us are going to lose patience, faith, because of the perils to come, and even certain things that's happening now. There's a lot of brothers and sisters bugging out. They're bugging out. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to go to the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel. All right. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. All right. I want to start at verse 36. Well, let me see. Yeah. Daniel 2, verse 36. It says, "This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory." So, to prelude this is going into King Nebuchadnezzar. So, this is Daniel in the time frame of King Nebuchadnezzar. And remember, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about this statue. Matter of fact, no. I'm just mentioning it. All right, so, well, yeah. I'm gonna just jump up to verse 27. So, verse 27 says, Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, "The secret which the king have demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king? But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these." So, just to prelude it, that this is the time frame of the Babylonians. King Nebuchadnezzar made a decree out to the astrologers, the wise men, the the magicians, the soothsayers, to try to decipher a dream, right? And this dream consisted of, this was the dream that he had, but he could not remember. So he forced the wise men, like, hey, if y'all can't tell me the dream and the interpretation thereof, I'm going to kill you. That's basically what King Nebuchadnezzar said. So Daniel was called, and now all the astrologers, magicians, and soothsayers was confounded. But what is this saying too? This also tells you that these kingdoms are under forms of witchcraft, because they get their spiritual essence or their spiritual guidance through witches, warlocks, magicians, astrologers. And those astrologers are those people, they all over TikTok. It's crazy. They always having tarot cards and telling you about Leo, Cancer, Gemini, and they blame their poor choices on the stars. It's stupid. It's dumb. So you got to think about it on another level. If you could do that, that means you have no responsibility whatsoever in your body, in your being, because you're blaming it on inanimate objects. All right, so going back, now I'm trying to prelude the time period. This is Daniel in the time period of the Babylonians, right? Now let's get deeper into it. Verse 31. Well, 30. And mind you, Daniel said that, I'll read again. Verse 29. "As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter, and he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass." So remember, Daniel said in verse 28, "Known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days." The latter days, right? Now, jump down to verse 31 just to show y'all what he dreamed about. Verse 31. "Thou, O king, sawest, and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thigh of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay." Now I'm going to jump down to verse 36. Verse 36, "This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So now Daniel is breaking down the interpretation of the dream, but primarily the interpretation of the figure that he saw in the dream. So now we're understanding that each of these precious metals, until it gets to the miry clay, each of these precious metals represent different kingdoms in time, right? Now let's keep reading. So that gold head that the king saw, that's a representation of his kingdom, which is the Babylonian Empire, right? Now, verse 39. And after these shall arise another kingdom, inferior to thee. So that means weaker. And another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So this was during the time of the Persian Medes, primarily around 539 BC. All right. So this is the Persian Median Empire that Daniel is referring to. Now let's keep going in this dream. Verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So now we see that iron is coming after the brass. So remember, it mentioned two different metals the first time, because the Persian Median Empire was a dual party system. That's where you had the Persians ruling and the Medes, and they were interconnected one to another through ties of families. Now we're moving over to the iron that goes into Rome, all right, which is they have a heavy military, very strong military, because when you read through the history, they conquered many lands in the Mediterranean, in Asia Minor. They conquered many lands because of their military. All right, let's keep reading, because I'm gonna go back to some of these points. Verse 43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So this kingdom is a future kingdom, right? And mind you, this is going into Daniel giving world history before it happened. So he's prophesying. Pro means before, phasai is to teach or preach, right? So he's preaching before the times, meaning he's making known what world history is going to be before it happens. That's why you can't listen to people that try to debate the Bible, Israel. We're reading world history in the time of the Babylonians that Daniel deciphered before it actually happened while he was living in the Babylonians, showing you that this book transcends time itself. But the heathens and the wicked of our people don't understand that. But let's keep reading. Verse 44. And in the days of these kings, so these kings goes into the iron mixed with the miry clay. So that's during the time of Babylon the Great, which is now America. Now it says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So I'm gonna mention that, but we're gonna come back to that, right? So let's get into some of these kingdoms. Now, we understand that Daniel is breaking down all the kingdoms in their proper order before it happened, right? Now, with that, let's go back to the Persian Median Empire with that dual party system. This is when you look up history in dealing with the Persians and Medes, you understand that ideology of everybody being one actually came from the Persians and Medes. It's not an Edomite thing. Remember, Esau copies and pastes everything. All they know is destruction. that's all they know. They copy and paste everything. They like it's replicate to a cancer cell. You copy, you imitate, and then you kill the host. It's the same type of movement how Esau moves on this earth. But let's get into it. So, the Persian Median Empire was the one that was that real melting pot, because when you read like about Darius II, Cyrus, they were actually trying to incorporate many different cultures and lands and peoples even into their architecture, right? And then they made respect to those cultures' architectures in their buildings. That's the mindset that they had at that time. But Babylon the Great today has taken that and now has twisted it and used it against us. And we're going to go through it. How did Babylon use these things against us? Now, it's very important in Esau's calendar, which we're in. It's January the 4th, 2024, according to them, right? What is so significant about this year? What's so significant? Yes, it is a political year. It's a political year. So that shows you it's gonna be a lot of things that go on. Cause I want y'all to just fast forward. Well, actually rewind, not fast forward. Rewind back 4 years. What was going on in the world at that time? What was going on in the world? You had the jab going on. You had different shutdowns, lockdowns going on just 4 years ago. And that was a political year. Why is it that in political years, that's where you have the nations riling up? It's by design, Israel. It's by design. So let's get into certain definitions, because I do want to use and prelude certain definitions. So with us going into the different roots of the eugenics tree, we're going to go into the root of sociology. All right, I want to define it because it's not a word that we normally use every day. All right, let me thought I had it. Okay, hold on. Okay, here it is. All right, so sociology is the study of the development, structure, and functioning of human society. All right, so now with the Bible, Israel, we're actually going through sociology through the lens of our forefathers versus the lens of Esau. Why do I say that? We just went back in time in the Babylonian captivity, right? In the Babylonian captivity, Daniel just broke down 4 different kingdoms. He broke down Babylon, the Persians and Medes, Rome, and then that mystery kingdom, which is Babylon the Great that we know now. But he broke that down too. And he was also going into how the people were going to be at that time. So we're actually going into sociology to combat what Esau talks about. Because remember, when Esau goes into these subjects, they always put it in the lens of their own eyes. Always. And everybody follows them. For example, it was a native tribe. It's like they would deem a name on somebody when it's not their name. For instance, Puerto Rican, right? Puerto Rican just means port of riches. But we have people that subscribe to the name Port of Riches. And it's not even a rich place right now. Probably in resources, but Esau has decimated Puerto Rico. They have messed up everything that Esau touched. he taints it. Everything he touches, he taints. So, even with that understanding, they changed their name to a byword. Let's get that real quick in the scriptures. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. 28. All right, let me see. 28. I'm going to get straight to the point. Well, let's prelude it. I want to go to 28, verse 28, really quick. So, Deuteronomy 28, verse 28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. So, why is the Lord smiting us with madness and astonishment? Because we fail to keep his commandments. We fail to self-identify as Israel, to really remember who we are and bethink ourselves in these last days. That's why we've been smitten with madness. Now, verse 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save thee. So this is coming because we fail to know who we are. And the giving up, the knowledge of who you are always comes back to repentance. And then you have to search it out. A lot of us, I ain't gonna lie, Israel, a lot of us are lazy. We don't like to search out things. We don't like to question things. We're that type of people that just go with the flow, just like sheep. We just go with the flow. We don't try to question it. We don't try to rebut it. And that's a problem. That's why we have to get the Spirit of the Most High in these last days to question, why are we doing what we're doing? Then to turn back to his face. All right? So, let me see. Where did I want it? Okay, I wanted 37. Deuteronomy 28:37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. So through the lens of Esau, through his sociology, he puts bywords and different names on people that he conquers. And he puts names on you that demean you, or that means that your people are defeated. And that's something that we don't understand. Esau tries to play God in the development of human society. They try to think that, the time of Rome was the epicenter of human society. No, that's because they came into power. But we just read in Daniel, it was greater kingdoms prior to Rome. The Babylonians was greater than Rome. The Persian Medes were greater than Rome. So you had two mighty kingdoms, mightier than Rome before its time. So in the lens of Esau, they're always going to revert back to the Roman Empire or the Greco-Roman Empire and try to revert back to say that they're the cradle of civilization. And they're not. They're not. So with sociology, we're understanding through the scriptures, it forces us to find out, okay, what are these people? What did they do at these times? Why were they moving this way? And even prior to the Babylonian captivity, you remember when Nebuchadnezzar, we read in Judith, he was actually on the rise, and the Lord was working with him. But he was on the rise to conquer all the nations, because it's a set time for each nation to rule in this time frame. All right? So let's get back to it. Let's get back. I'm going to go back to Daniel. Daniel chapter 2:36. All right. Daniel chapter 2. All right. So I want to go back to 39, which is the Persians and Medes again. All right. So Daniel chapter 2, verse 39. And after these shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. So let's make a compare and contrast, Israel. How did Babylon fall? How did it fall? How did Babylon fall? Because if this place is called Babylon the Great, that means that it has attributes of these prior kingdoms before it. It has the same attributes because this kingdom isn't stupid. It has to learn from the past mistakes of the other kingdoms to try to rule over us longer. So, how did Babylon fall? How did it fall? It actually fell from within. It fell from within. When you look at the history of the Babylonians, they were in close proximity of the Persians and Medes. There were certain of the Medes that was in high positions at the time of the Babylonian Empire. Like, and I'm talking about like magistrates and different political officers, things of that nature. They were there. So you had a coup d'etat, you could say, a turning of hands between one kingdom to the next. Actually, let's get it. Let me get it. Let's see. I didn't have that preluded, but I can get into it. I want to go straight to the fall. Bear with me, Israel. Yeah, this one I did not have, but it just hit me. Let me see. Bear with me. So I want to get straight to a point. Like I thought. All right. So let's go to Daniel 5:25 really quick. Because actually, I want to read Daniel 5:1. All right, so Daniel chapter 5, verse 1. Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes and his wives and his concubines drank in them. All right, so let's paint the picture, Israel. This is King Nebuchadnezzar's descendant. It's his son, but it's his further descendant when you read history. But in this, his descendant is in the midst of a feast. It's a great feast. So I want you to see that before the fall of a kingdom, there's a age of decadence, or a period of time where the kingdom gets very lax. They get lax in laws, they get lax in morality, and they even get lax in certain army procedures. Now, this is an example of a kingdom being lax. This kingdom is in their place of decadence. They are in the midst of a great feast, and then they're drinking of the holy vessels, which is actually forbidden. But let's get some more information on that. Verse 5. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote, and the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. So this man was terrified when he saw, just think about this big black finger come out of nowhere and just start writing on the wall. That will scare anybody. Anybody would be scared. Don't tell me like, oh, I'm strong in the Lord, power of his might, ain't gonna be. Nah. You see a translucent brown finger come out of nowhere and start writing on the wall. Oh yeah, you are terrified. So his stomach was in his butt. That's what we just read. All right, so now let's fast forward. So now we understand that in this uh, uh, in this time period, it's still the Babylonians, but they're in their age of decadence. Again, when a kingdom is in their age of decadence, that's where morality goes out the window. That's where certain laws are laxed. Even dealing with certain crimes is laxed. And there's a lot of parties. There's a lot of entertainment. They push cooks to the forefront. Why is that? They're trying to distract you for what's really going on. They know that their time is up. But let's get further into it. So let's jump down to verse 24, because now they call it Daniel, right? Daniel is now coming to decipher what does this writing mean. All right, so then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighted in the balances and art found wanting, meaning found lacking, right? Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. So, that's heavy. I want y'all to see that. So it says that the kingdom is divided, and given to the Persians. So it shows you, one, Daniel's interpretation of the dream to the ancestor of Belshazzar. This isn't King Nebuchadnezzar right here. This is his descendant. So to this man, now that dream that Nebuchadnezzar had is coming to pass. So he was the last ruling kingdom, or the last ruling Babylonian king at that time, before the translation of the kingdoms. Now we understand that the Persians and Medes are up next. So every kingdom has their divided lot in time for how long they should rule. And mind you, it says that they were found lacking. They were found lacking. What were they found lacking in? I just preluded that this is a time before kingdom falls. They always go through a time of decadence. It's always a time of joyous occasions. Have fun. Live your life. That YOLO mindset that always comes before a kingdom falls. And then it's always that king that is raised up. And when he is raised up, he does not listen to his ancestors. He does not listen to wise counsel. He does what he wants to do because he thinks he's king. He thinks he's king over everybody. That same thing is happening now. So the reason I mentioned that this year is a political year, you always see the battle of the right, the left, and Israel. Y'all should not be getting into that mess, because it's the dirty wings of the same funky bird. Like it's Democrat, Republican, but they all, it's like wrestling. It's like SmackDown and Raw. It's ran by the same company. These wrestlers know each other, and then they go through the motions of I'm gonna be on your show, or Smack versus what is that? SmackDown versus Raw versus SmackDown. But it's all theatrics. They put the theatrics in front of you on television, social media, to try to get you to be swayed certain ways. That's called manipulation, Israel. That is a form of witchcraft if you did not know. That's manipulation. And they try to tug at your heartstrings to try to see, okay, how can we get this person to tick or move? But let's get into it. So, sociology, the study of peoples. So we just broke down 3 major kingdoms. Well, yeah, 3 before this one. It was the Babylonians, the Persians and Medes, Rome, right? Now let's get deeper into it. Now, with that kingdom found lacking, that means that their time is up. Their time is up, and there's strings of things that happen. So, in the time of the Babylonians, we had a structure or breakdown from within, right? So, if Babylon the Great follows after these three previous kingdoms that we're reading about, that means that one of the attributes, it has to fall from within, not from without, from within. Now, let's go over to the Greco-Roman Empire. Let's see some things that they implemented on our people. Let's see. First Maccabees, chapters 1, verse... I'm going to get straight to it. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. All right. So this is the democracy that they try to push, to say that we're all fair, we listen, we do this. But how did the Greco-Roman Empire take their kingdom? They killed for it. They killed the Persians and Medes. They killed certain of the Persians and Medes to take control over their land and their resources. They didn't vote. They didn't go through the rigmarole of rioting in the streets, protesting. They didn't do those things. They killed for it. That's what it takes. It takes blood, a lot of bloodshed to make huge changes for you to rule. That's just the cold truth, Israel. You can't rule by voting somebody out. You can't. It's all ran by the same people. But let's keep going. Moreover, again, this is First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom, and all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. All right, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So let's get into that. It says that this man's decree is actually a religion. Let's see something. Let's define what religion is. So religion is a particular system of faith and worship. That's one. A pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes superior or supreme importance. Meaning it belongs, that idea or that ideology belongs to you and you subscribe to it. So, worshiping government, isn't that idolatry? And what is the name of the study of government? It's actually politics. Politics. I'm gonna read it. Politics, the academic study of government and the state. Activities within an organization that are aimed at improving someone's status or position and are typically considered to be devious or divisive. So politics is nothing more than brown nosing. That's it. That's all it is. It's a glorified way of brown nosing. So when you learn politics, who are you trying to please? You're trying to please the government that you're under. And then I'm not going into being just anarchy and all this stuff. No. I'm going into where you would kill for position, you would lie for position, you would break God's commandments to get better status in the society that you're in. That's bad politics. And a lot of us still have that mindset. It's just bad politics. We don't know how to deal with one another. So some of us, I'm going to just be real with y'all, Israel. Some of us deal with the heathen in the nations more better than our own brothers and sisters. I'm just be real. I'm gonna just be real. We reading right now. Let me read again to prove what I just said. I'm gonna start at verse 42 again. And everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. So if they had true love for their people, why did they go along with the program? Why did they sacrifice unto these false gods, these false idols? Because they loved the heathen more than their own people. They loved the gods of the other nations because the gods of the other nations was fascinating. That's where you get sports, all the competitive world. That's where you get all that stuff from. Because think about it. Let's fast forward. Let's go back to the Roman time period during the time of the gladiators. The gladiators actually had a religion. They believed in blood and sand. If they shed blood, the blood was shed in the arena for their gods, for their idols. How is it the same today? You have these teams. I'm gonna just stick with football. You have football teams. Well, I can mention them all, but primarily it's in an arena. The football team is in an arena. What is their god? What is their god? It's actually the emblem that they're repping. That's their god. And y'all see how fanatic their fans are? That's why they call fans, because they're fanatic or crazy over those deities, those entities, those players moving the way that they move. The same mindset was in the mindset of the gladiators at the time. They believed that if they died in reference to their gods. And the magistrates and the kings at that time, they would use the death of the gladiators as sacrifices for their gods to bring rain, to bring good wealth, and all this stuff. You really think that stuff is not happening now? You really think we're in modern society? No, it's the same thing being done, just done a different way. Instead of bloodshed and a sword and a shield, now y'all are ramming into each other each and every play, getting brain damage. You're causing wear and tear on your body for what? Fame? For what? Money? Are you kidding me? You kidding me? So this is the mindset or the ideology that they thought at that time in the Roman time period during the gladiators. They have the same mindset now. The same exact mindset. Now, let's get back to verse 42 because I want to go deeper into that. It says, and everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So which laws? They were going to promote staying away from God's commandments because God's commandments cause division amongst the nations. Let me prove that. Let me prove that real quick. Let's go to Nehemiah really fast. I'm going to prove that God's law causes division. It causes it. We're going to go to Nehemiah 13. I want to start at verse 3. So Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 3. Well, no, let's start at 1 into 3 so we get the sense. All right, Nehemiah 13, 1. On that day, they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of God forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, and he said, and he should curse them. Howbeit, our God turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. All the mixed multitude. So all of Israel was reading the law. The mixed multitude amongst us separated themselves. Why? Because the law had nothing to do with them. It had no benefit for them. It wasn't for them to benefit from. It was for us to benefit from. So they separated themselves. They divided themselves from us. Now, let me get a quick precept. Nehemiah 11 and 4. Wait. Do I want that? No, not Nehemiah. I'm sorry. Numbers. Let me get something real quick. All right, so this is Numbers chapter 11, verse 4. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again, and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? So, when it says that they fell a lusting, what did they do? They went back into serving their own gods. To follow the laws of God for a heathen is hard. That's why Paul said in Romans 9, all Israel ain't Israel. Because some of us that can't follow the law, you may not even be Israel, honestly. Because if you have the birthright, just like Esau, you have the birthright of being Israel, but you throw it all away for the pleasures of the world, for materialistic things, for money, for fame, you may be a heathen. You may be a heathen in an Israelite body. you acting as a heathen. You are a heathen, Israel. So, with that said, Israel, the mixed multitude separated from us. They went to do their own thing. But we was reading the laws of God to better ourselves. But it shows you that there's a divide between us and the other nations. They can't get down with God's law because they're adverse to God's law, especially Esau. But let's continue reading. Let's go back to First Maccabees, back into the the Greek captivity or the Greek history. Verse 44. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So how do we sacrifice unto idols now and profane the Sabbath? We just had a holiday that just passed. 2 of them, actually. You had the false New Year's Eve. New Year's, you had that, which is the celebration of Janus, which is a Greek god. And then that goes into astrology as well. Then you had Christmas the week prior. Who does that go into? That goes into Talmud, which goes into the Tammuz. I'm sorry, not Talmud. Tammuz, and that goes into Neo-Babylon, which is ancient Babylon. I'm talking about Nimrod Babylon. That goes into him. You're celebrating him and his mama Semiramis, his wife, mama wife. So you are celebrating other men, women, and other deities outside of your God when you pay homage to these false holidays. What else are our people doing? It's something called church. Church is the biggest deception. I'm talking about modern day church, Christianity church. That's the biggest deception on the planet Earth. Why is it the biggest deception? Let's just go to the pastor's favorite chapter and verse, Jeremiah 23. Let's just go. Let me just start at verse 1. Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel against the pastors that feed my people. Ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, saith the Lord. So now we see that there's a division even amongst us in Israel. God does not subscribe to these pastors that's preaching this Christendom that's in the lens of Esau. This religion that's in the lens of Esau. Because you got to think about it, Israel. We're going down the route of religion now. Religion is very big in our society. Mostly Christianity, Islam. Those are the major 2 religions. But how were they introduced to us? By Edomite men. Both religions were. One, Elijah Muhammad, learned from his predecessor, which was an Edomite, and then you had Christianity put on us in slavery to keep us down. That's what religion really means. It comes from the word religio, which means to bind or to hold down. It's not holding us down to God's commandments. It's holding us down to sin. That's the trick bag right there. So remind you, all of these roots, according to the eugenics tree, is meant to destroy us. Each of these roots. So we have to first identify the root and then cast it down. Let's get it. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. So it's our job to identify these things and cast it down with the word of God. But we have to study it. We have to know, what is it talking about? But now we see that there's pastors or false prophets. They're the same thing. They're in these last days to confuse and scatter the sheep of Israel. That's their job. And you know why God have them here? To prove us, to test who really loves him. If you really love the Most High, you're going to question stuff. You're going to be like, wait a minute. What you just said don't have nothing to do with what was written in the Bible. Or that verse that you just pulled don't say that. You couldn't do that in church. In the truth, this is the first time ever that I can really think about. I could ask the leader of the congregation a question about something that they pulled and actually get understanding. They're not telling you, pray on it. Or that's sealed. No, they're giving you the understanding, the raw and the uncut. And that's what we need in these last days. All right. So let's go back. All right. So 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So a lot of us even today in these religions profane God's Sabbath day by celebrating or saying that we're celebrating on the first day of the week. So with Esau, through Christianity, pushing through the Pope, that you can celebrate on Sunday. That Sunday is ordained to celebrate God. No, that's not according to the law. That's not according to the Torah. That's not according to the first 5 books of God. It's not. So you're following the religions of another man. You're following the words of another man versus the words of God. So Sunday worship, sacrificing unto idols. That's at the Sunday worship. Sometimes after church, they have dinners and things of that nature. What they have hog maw. They have pork, all type of bacon, all type of ribs. These are the things that our people are in today, right now to this day. And we're talking about the Greek and Roman Empire right now. Let's keep reading. Verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars. So wait a minute. I want to stop right there. It says pollute the sanctuary and holy people. How do they pollute us today? They pollute us through politics. They pollute us through social media. They pollute us through television. And they pollute us through ignorance. That's the biggest weapon right there. Ignorance. If you don't teach somebody something, or they don't have it within their mind to even think about something, you can keep them stuck where they at. You can make them a wage slave. You can make them you can make them dependent on you. And that's what Esau has done. He made us so dependent on their system and him that we don't even want to do anything. We're almost like how we was in Egypt. You remember when we was coming out, we was like, oh, the meats, the melons, and this and that. We talking about all the good that was in captivity. Like some of us today, hey, when we get beamed up out of here, some of us gonna be talking about, oh, my iPhone and what I used to do and this, that, and the third. And your head gonna be cut off. We gotta learn to be content with the word of God and content with what's to happen. All right. So it says that set up altars. This is 47. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. That's going on right now in the church, in that church house. It's going on right now, Israel. So even though we're reading about a different time period in that division of time in which it was in, it's still being implemented today. Today it's still being implemented. All right, let's keep reading. Verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. So how are our children unclean today? What about this lack of parenting that's going on? Let me touch on that. The lack of parenting that's going on today, where parents want to just have fun and be children again, teenagers rather, and then they raise children to be raised by what? Television, social media, and other bad influences. There's no parenting really today. If you're not operating within God's laws or any type of moral or guidance according to God's laws, nah, you ain't no parent. You're not. I'm just be real with you. You're not. Or you may be a parent, but you're bad. You're not a good one. And these parents are very lax today. When I was growing up, hey, you got the beats. If you wasn't in by the time the street lights came on, oh, you was in trouble. And one want to come on, oh, everybody take off running. The kids today, one, they barely go outside, and there's two reasons. One, you have technology all around us. Even with me talking to you, I'm using a form of technology. So the kids are distracted through these different mediums of technology. That's one reason. And then two, with the ignorance of our brothers and sisters not teaching their children according to God's law, what happens? They're killing each other in the street. So now you have a fear factor of young kids in certain places where their parents don't even want them to go outside because they don't want them to get involved in any type of fights or even get killed. So it's a trick bag. This is the biggest trick bag. And we are being deceived. And some of us think that it's a pleasure to be, like, I'm talking to probably hundreds of people right now remotely. That is crazy. I'm in one location, y'all in another location listening to the words of God right now, all praises. But just think about all the different mediums that's out in the world right now that does not pertain to the words of God. It's overwhelming. So all of our children are going to be in these mediums and following bad examples under what they see, what they watch, what they hear. All right, so read that again. Verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised. So this goes into the physical circumcision. They were stopping us from circumcising our sons. Why? Because that circumcision represented the promise that was made by Abraham. And it identified who we were. But they stopped that. This is the Greeks. And make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. And that goes into what we just read above. Sacrificing all unclean beasts. And what you going to do with those sacrifices? You're going to eat them. You're going to eat them. You ain't just sacrifice to the God and it burns. No, you're going to eat it. Esau will eat anything. They'll eat lizards, alligators, frogs, and then they get Crazy Jake to do the same thing and think it's a delicacy. Shrimp, which are sea roaches, but you ain't gonna grab no ground roach nowhere and kill it, put some butter and salt on it and eat it. You ain't gonna do that. So it's all the abominations that we learn through this system. That's what our children are learning today, and they was learning at that time. Keep reading. Now, abomination with all manners of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he shall die. Right? So it was forced upon us that if we did not keep the king's religion, he would cause us to be put to death. Meaning we would be singled out by keeping God's law. That's happening today too. We're going to be singled out, calling out all the abomination. We're going to be singled out, calling out all the wickedness that we see on these mediums called the internet. And we're going to use those examples, filter it through the Bible, and show other brothers and sisters that we should not be living this type of lifestyle according to God's commandments. It's amazing, but at the same time, we're going to be singled out because of it. It happened in the Greek captivity. Why it's not going to happen now when this kingdom is a mixture of all the captivities we just read? It's a mixture of the Babylonians. It's a mixture of the Persians and Medes. It's a mixture of Rome. Why not? Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6. I'm going to jump to 1 and then jump down. It's the same occurrence, but gives you a little bit more details on what was going on at that time. So 2 Maccabees chapter 6, I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, and not to live after the laws of God, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call in the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwell in the place. So now you have certain of us preaching false doctrines, preaching things that go against God's commandments and our own policy within God's law. You're preaching against those things by trying to persuade us to fall after the heathen. And how was he sent? He was sent from Athens to talk to our fathers, meaning the leaders at that time. But let's keep reading. I'm going to jump down to verse 4 just to show you what was going on in the temple. It says, For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots. So wait a minute. So you had rioting, reveling, it was overmuch partying by the Gentiles, meaning non-Israelite people. Then who dallied with harlots. So they was having sex with harlots in our temple. Meaning how defiled they are. How defiled they are today. They have no place of sanctity, no place of respect when it comes to anything nowadays. They just think because they have the freedom of speech, they can say whatever they want to say. That's on their mind. That's not the case. But let's go back. Who dallied with harlots and had to do with, and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful. The altar also was filled with profane things, which the law forbid. Let me jump down. Verse 7. And in the day of the king's birth, every month, they were brought by bitter constraints to eat of the sacrifices, and when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. So now we see that at this time, to celebrate another man's birth was a constraint. It was something that we did not want to do. That wasn't our custom at the time. So even with it not being our custom, how did we get into it? We was forced. We was forced into it. Like today. Why is it that a lot of our brothers and sisters celebrate their birthday? because they were taught it at birth. And they think it's a good thing, but it has nothing to do with any good thing at all. Nothing at all. So, and then think about it, Israel. Our brothers and sisters that celebrate their birthday are actually they're celebrating death. Because why are you celebrating the numbering of how many years you've been on the earth? Why? And then they live like Wisdom of Solomon 2 talks about. They live voluptuously, meaning on their birthday you have this dumb thing that's going around, especially in the hood, where these sisters be wearing money on their shirt. Stupidest thing ever. They wear that just to signify, oh, it's my birthday, or it's my birth month, or birth week. They try to extend it just like the heathen do. And then, even in devil worshiping, the highest day of the year was their birthday. Because they were idolizing who? Themselves. And this goes into what type of religion? This same religion called Christianity, the same religion called politics. All this is wrapped into that because everybody is doing it. When you do opposite of it, everybody look at you as strange, crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. No. We're reading right now, it was a constraint for us to worship after other gods or the birth of a king. And then it was forced upon us. But we do it willingly now. Everything that was a constraint in times past is done willingly now through the ignorance that we don't know who we are. All right, let's read some more. And then in verse 8 it says, moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. So it was still forced upon us to celebrate these things. How is it forced upon us today? I have not heard one person complain about Christmas in the job arena. Why? Because you might lose your job. That you're afraid of losing your job. Because don't they say that you're not supposed to talk about like religion, politics, things of that nature at work? But everybody celebrates Christmas, which is a religious event. Make it make sense, Israel. Make it make sense. I never heard anybody complain like, wait a minute, this is going against y'all own law. We shouldn't even be honoring Christmas because you're going through one vein of a religion. And it's a celebration. It's a religious celebration. So why is it that everybody has to say Merry Christmas? Why is it that everybody have to put up decorations to signify this day? That's being forced upon you. And you don't even know it. You don't even know it. Now, when people say Happy Holidays, you have other, especially Edomites, like these old Edomites. Oh man, they get mad at you. They'll get mad because they want you to say Merry Christmas. That's just them. That's their mindset. So you're forced and used against your own will to keep that job. You ain't gonna complain to HR saying that they're breaking their own policy. So you're forced. Even though we don't even mention it, celebrate it, things of that nature, they still try to force it on you by telling you Merry Christmas. They try to put it on you. Oh, Happy New Year. They force it on you. And this is that passive aggressive type forcement. That's the worst type. Because that's how Esau is. Matter of fact, I'm going to go deeper into that. Now that we're learning about these different divisions of times, because I named the class, the dividing of time. So we went from Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, right? We saw that the translation between the Babylonians, it was a fall. Hold on, man. Sorry about that. I don't know why that's going on. But it was a fall between the Babylonians and a translation to the Persians and Medes. How did they fall? They fell from within. That's one note to take from that division of time. What was the other division of time? The Persians and Medes. they had a two-party system. With this two-party system, they was able to have much of the people enraptured into their ideology. The two-party system was the Persians and Medes. The Persians were on top, the Medes were on the bottom. Then they were the first to mix in the melting pot, that whole ideology of mixing all cultures and races and nations. And they was the first to push the postal system. That was forms of media being put out to the provinces to get certain decrees done. Now we're in the Greco-Roman Empire. We just read that they use. I want y'all to think now. We're in this division of time, the Greco-Roman Empire. In this division of time, you had what? You had the Romans using a Persian and Mede ideology to push their forms of worship on us. How did they do it? They sent it with a letter. Mind you, the Persians and Medes were the first to do that. They was the first to make postal systems. We just saw Antiochus push his decree with a letter to all the different neighboring provinces, just like the Persians and Medes. Then they forced it upon us, but they force it upon you in a passive-aggressive way. At first, it's aggressive. If you don't do this, you die. You get killed. There was a lot of us that died when you read 2 Maccabees, the 7th chapter. There's a lot of us that did not consent to the religion and we just died. But it was others that saw the death of us that was put into fear to live. I'd rather live than just die, so I'm going to do it. And then they started to do it over and over to the point where it becomes routine. Once it becomes routine, if somebody take it away, now you complain. Now you're like, wait a minute, what about the kids? What about this? What about that? It has nothing to do with them kids. I like, it was a sister who was teaching, sidebar. It was a sister that we was teaching at a camp not too long ago. It was close to Christmas time. And she had a shirt that had the Grinch on there. And it said, F them kids. I mean, I was like, wow, that's the best provocative shirt I've seen. Where it's like, a lot of us, and I'm talking about in the world, we put a lot of attention saying it's for the kids, but it's actually for the detriment. It's actually for the destruction. But because we don't see it that way, because we're not looking through the lens of our forefathers, we're looking through the lens of Esau, through what? The eugenics tree. So, religion, we look through their lens. Why? Their God is white. Their Christ looks like them. Not white, but red. Their Christ looks like them. It doesn't look like us. That's through their lens. Their politics, it only represents their kingdom and them. And then we have certain of our people that will steal for it, kill for it, or even lie for it. They'll break God's laws to get status in the government that they live in through politics. That's another route that is fitted for destruction. Then we have genealogy. Let's get into that real quick because I have 10 minutes. So genealogy, with this whole ideology that we're one people. I'm going to read it again. 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. With that ideology, Israel, this is how we get this one love, one world, let's get together and be all right. That whole Bob Marley type of vibe, that's not what it's about. That ideology is destroying millions of people because they don't know who they are. And I'm going to prove it. Let's go to what is it? One people. I'm going to go to Sirach 33:10. Sirach 33:10 real quick. All right, Ecclesiasticus chapter 33 verse 10. And all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. So this is, yes, we are one people because we come from the same person, which is Adam, right? But let's see. Verse 11, in much knowledge the Lord hath divided them. So even though we come from the man Adam, and how do we stem from Adam? It's Adam, and then you have Shem, Japheth, and it goes all the way down the line. But those are the descendants that survived the flood. You know, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and of course Noah at the time. But they were the three that survived the flood. They were the three that all the nations stem from. So that's how we come from Adam. Now, with that understanding, says verse 11 again, in much knowledge the Lord have divided them and made their ways diverse. Meaning he divided the nations and made all their ways different. Not the same. So this whole one love, one... No, it's not the same. We're not the same people. You got to think about it. Why is it differences in our phenotype? Why is it differences in our skin color? Why is it differences even in our red blood? There's differences. You have different blood types, but we're all the same people? Come on now, Israel. That don't make it make sense. Make it make sense for me. That makes no sense. God is showing us there's differences, and he's dividing the people, but we try to, no, we're the same because we have a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a stomach, so we the same people. Get out of here. For real, get out. Let's keep reading. Verse 12, some of them hath he blessed and exalted, and some of them hath he sanctified and set near himself. But some of them hath he cursed and brought low and turned out of their places. So he's making a difference. He made some close to him, which are who? Israel. He pushed the others away, which was who? The other nations. It's just that simple. And we're going through history of the Bible. I ain't making nothing up. Just going through the history of the Bible. Now, verse 13. And the clay, as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him, to render to them as liken him best. Good is set against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are 2 and 2, one against another. So there must be one against another to operate what? Balance. That's what God is all about. God is all about equity. So he has to make differences to create balance. You have to have hot with cold. That's balance. You have to have light with dark. It's balance. And these are things that we don't understand because a lot of us don't have the knowledge of God. So even with this the 2 and 2, Esau replicates that and perverts it and try to say, oh, you can either do Democrat or Republican. One is good, one is bad. But they all bad. They all bad. So, because we're in this political year, we have to be very wise in how we deal with the nations and the peoples. There's a lot of things ramping up, and they always ramp up the years prior to the election year. That's by design. It's always been by design. Even 2020, there was certain events, certain key events that happened prior to 2020. Then when 2020 happened, you had the lockdowns and things of that nature, but it swayed the minds of the people. And I'm going to just tell you straight, that lockdown stuff was actually what they call economical warfare. You hide behind the guise of a disease, but you're using that to attack another person's economic might. Who got rich off that? Pharmaceutical companies. Who got poor off that? Shipping companies. So who suffered? Nations like China, nations like Russia, certain nations in Africa. They suffer from that. So we have to look at the bigger picture, Israel. When we're going to, the reason I'm bringing this up, especially with these divisions that we keep reading about, we got to know the times that we're in. We got to know, okay, we just read about miry clay in Daniel, showing you that it's not going to mix. The people are not going to mix with the kingdom that they're in, meaning it's going to be a divide even within that kingdom. And that's going to cause the fall of that kingdom, just like it did in Babylon. That kingdom also had a two-party system, just like it did in Persians and Medes. Even though we're going through these divisions or different forms of time, I'm actually showing you that I'm going to look this up real quick. It's pretty cool. I'm a nerd. Yes, I know this. I know this and I love it. But when you define divide, it's very heavy. And I'm using the mathematical term. So divide just means to find how many times a number contains another. So wait a minute. If I am trying to find out how many times this occurrence happened within this same kingdom, that's also a division too. I'm using the previous histories to line up with what's going on now and divide the events that happen to show that this kingdom is what it says it is in the Bible. So I can clearly say throughout all the kingdoms, this is Babylon the Great. Based off, it's an amalgamation or a mixture of all the prior kingdoms that we had before. And then, I'm sorry, I didn't mention Rome. So even with Rome being the iron that breaketh many to pieces, that goes into the military might. Babylon the Great has the greatest military on the planet Earth. And they're spread everywhere. And they cover all facets of land. That meaning they're in the air, they're in the water, they're air, water, and then they're on the land. That's the different branches of the army. So even with that said, that's still a division of that time, but I'm also making a reference from that time to this time as well. So we're dividing the time periods, then we're using those occurrences that happened within those time periods to line it up with now. That's called division. So with that understanding, Israel, let me get one more script real quick. So in these times of division, God is going to cause us to unify. And we are actually bringing unification to us, but breaking them down. Actually, let me go back to Daniel real quick. Running out of time. Daniel chapter 2. Is one point I wanted. Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. And in the days of these kings, meaning now, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So how do you set up a kingdom? There's forms and facets that go into the setting up of a kingdom. That goes into, remember those bones in Ezekiel 37 that are rising up in these last days? I want to get it, but I ain't going to get it. But those bones in Ezekiel 37, 1, that's us being raised up in these days. It says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. That's the kingdom of heaven, which is going through us, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. Meaning, that kingdom is not going to be left to the heathens. It's going to be ruled under us and or through us with our king and high commander in chief Christ commanding us, but through the Spirit of God. So it's not going to be moved, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So that goes into us taking back our planet. Through what? Through God's laws, statutes, and commandments, and through the discipline of our own spirits. So with that understanding, Israel, it's very important that we return back to God's law. It's very important that we see the division of times and how it's being divided now and how the people are divided. So we have to see that, okay, we got to stick together. Last scripture, Psalms, I got two. Psalms 133, 1. Real quick. Psalms 133, 1. Because through us being raised up in these last days is going to build this spirit on us. Psalms 33, 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. So the children of Israel in the last days are going to unify under God through Christ in keeping of his commandments. That's how we're going to unify. And we're actually establishing our kingdom now. So, all praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High. That concludes the class for today. I pray y'all brothers and sisters learned something today, especially about how we're using different divisions of time to show how many different occurrences happen in those time frames to relay it to now. So, all praise to the Most High. Y'all just did some time traveling today. Early this morning. Y'all went from Babylon to Timbuktu to Egypt, Rome, Greece. Y'all went all over the place and through different time periods this morning to learn that, yes, we have to unify in these last days. All right. All right, then, Israel. So we have mid-morning medicine coming up later, probably like in 30 minutes or so. So tune in for that. We also have classes 24/7. I mean, you can learn anything nowadays. So, hey, learn it. Download the classes. Download the classes, Israel, because it is important that we keep these classes on our person just in case, certain things happen. You'll always have that class. All right, so, hey, that's my time, Israel. Hey, it was a pleasure teaching y'all today. I'll praise to the Most High. Y'all study, pray, and apply. Stay in the spirit. At the same time, hey, y'all have a productive day. Shalom. Most High Christ bless you.